Hey everyone, my name is Seb Stott, you're watching Pinkbike, and this is the Polygon Mt Bromo. You may have already spotted that it's an e-bike, and I know you all love e-bikes, but the thing that's really interesting about this one is the suspension. Polygon have opted not to go with their nailed react-to-play suspension system seen on some of their previous models, but rather than going for a horsed link 4-bar like everyone else, they've actually gone for a 6-bar suspension system. It's got a pair of short links just there above the motor, which connect the main frame to the swing arm and form a 4-bar linkage. But then it's also got the seat stay and the rocker link, which are purely there to drive the shock. They bring the total number of frame members up to 6. Although it looks different, the idea is somewhat similar to the Specialized Enduro or the Canyon Sender, for example, in that there's a 4-bar linkage which purely dictates the axle path and therefore the anti-squat and anti-rise that go along with that. And then the other 2 links, which in this case are the seat stay and the rocker link, are designed purely to optimize the leverage curve and so the progression of the suspension. What that means in theory is that Polygon can separate the design constraints of how the bike pedals from how the suspension kind of ramps up as it goes through its travel. Those 2 short links give it an instant center, sometimes called the virtual pivot point, which sits somewhere inside the motor housing. And because there's no need for a physical pivot behind the motor, and along with that elevated chainstay, that means they can shorten the rear center quite considerably. At 435 millimeters, this is about the shortest rear center you'll find on any e-bike. And in fact, if you look at the gap between the tire and the motor, this is probably as short as you could go with the 29-inch rear wheel. Now, obviously a short chainstay has its downsides in terms of keeping the front wheel loaded, particularly on steep climbs or flat corners. But with all that weight up front, and with the really very long chainstay lengths on some e-bikes, they can make riding dynamically very difficult indeed. And because there isn't a pivot point sat on top of the motor, the anti-squat values aren't crazy high. So there's about 100% anti-squat or a bit more depending on what gear you're in. And in my opinion, you really don't want too much anti-squat on an e-bike because being able to pedal smoothly over rough terrain is really half the fun. It's 29-inch only, front and rear, in all 4 frame sizes, and there's 160 mil of travel at either end. This is the top spec model, the N8, which retails for $5,000 US. For that, you get a Performance Elite Fox Flotex 2 shock, you get a Fox 38 with the grip damper, and you get pretty much a full XT drivetrain and brakes, just with a Dior cassette. You also get Shimano XT hubs, which is something you just don't see very much nowadays. And then there's 35mm internal width rims with Schwalbe Magic Mary tires in the 2.6-inch width and the Super Gravity casing. That's a big thumbs up for me. I think too many e-bikes come with lightweight tires that just aren't tough enough for the job. And I think the extra cushioning you get from a 2.6 over the 2.35-inch version, I really like that, whether on an e-bike or not. It uses the Shimano EP8 motor with a 504 watt-hour internal battery, so you won't get quite as much range as many of the latest e-bikes, many of which have a 630 watt-hour battery or more. Don't think that smaller battery makes it lightweight though, because this XL weighs 25 kilos exactly on my scales. That's 55.1 pounds. It's a full alloy frame with pretty sturdy wheels and tires, so I don't think that weight is overly surprising. It's in the same sort of ballpark as other e-bikes in this category. Geometry-wise, it's bang up to date, but nothing too radical. You get a 64.5 degree head angle and a 77 degree effective seat angle, which is fairly steep. It should help offset those short chainstays when climbing. The reach figure goes up by 20mm increments between sizes. So there's 450mm for the small, then 470, 490, and 510 for this XL. The wheelbase on this XL is 1280mm, so it's not outrageously long, but it's not short either. So how does it ride? Well, I've not had a chance to put much time on it yet, so stay tuned for a full review further down the line. So that's the Polygon Mt Bromo. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything from us.